Welcome to the English with Kirsty podcast from www.englishwithkirsty.com. Here I'll be sharing with you tips, information and other learning resources so that you can improve your business English. Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of English with Kirsty. So I hope you're all well, and today I'm going to talk about something that somebody asked me to talk about, because I often ask, what do you want me to talk about? What are your issues with English? What would you find interesting? And somebody suggested that I talk about English traditions, and as it's coming up to Christmas here, I thought I'd tell you quickly about some traditions here in England and how they might be a bit different from those in whichever country you're in. I know we've got a lot of listeners in Germany, and a lot of the traditions are the same in England and Germany, but there are some differences. So first of all, the first difference that I thought of is the day. So for us in England, the 25th is the important day. On the 24th, a lot of people still work. They go home early if they can, if their boss lets them go home early. But the main celebration isn't really on that day. People may have some special food and go and see the family quickly, but it's not the day when the main Christmas meal is eaten and the presents are given out, because that is the 25th. And it's usually in the morning. People usually exchange presents with their family. Some people do it after Christmas dinner, but a lot of people do it in the morning. Obviously everybody's different and traditions develop within each family, but it's quite often that children will get up in the morning and then presents will be opened then, and the main meal it's called Christmas dinner, but it's sometime around mid-afternoon usually that Christmas dinner is eaten. And also for us, Boxing Day, the 26th, is a holiday as well. So it got its name. It's nothing to do with boxing, but it's the people used to give the people that they employed presents. So if there were servants in the big houses or other people that worked for you, that they would get their presents on Boxing Day from their employers. I don't know why they didn't get them on Christmas Day, but this is just the way the tradition worked. And so for us, that's also a holiday. And the other great thing about being in England is if it's a holiday, so if it's at the weekend, like this year, the 25th is on Friday and the 26th is on Saturday. So we won't lose that Saturday. We will get it the following Monday. So if Christmas Day or Boxing Day fall at the weekend, then we get an extra day afterwards so that we don't lose a bank holiday, because that's the way it works here. And I think that's kind of cool. So these 2 days are holidays, and people generally, I don't know, it used to be a big day for going shopping, but now a lot of the sales are already on, so it's not so special to go shopping in the sales now. But yeah, it's just another day to eat the food that's left over, because generally people prepare too much, and to relax and spend time with family or friends, or go for a nice Christmas walk or something like that. So the food is a bit different as well. So the main meal is usually turkey. Some people are fed up with turkey now and they do other things like lamb or beef or chicken, but generally the traditional Christmas meal is with turkey. Obviously vegetarians don't. They usually have a nut roast or a corn roast, something like that. And then there are vegetables, usually roast potatoes, sometimes boiled potatoes, carrots, parsnips, swede, what else? Oh, and Brussels sprouts. People generally love them or hate them. I don't particularly like them. I sometimes say, okay, it's Christmas, I will have one, but that's all. And although you can buy them throughout the year, sprouts are something that generally only appear on the Christmas table unless you really like them. Then there's gravy, and sometimes there are tiny sausages wrapped in bacon, which are called pigs in blankets. And then there's cranberry sauce to go with the turkey, and stuffing as well. usually sage and onion stuffing to go with that. So it's quite a lot of meat, quite a lot of vegetables and potatoes, usually 1 or 2 types of potatoes, and gravy. And then the desserts are usually quite heavy, quite rich, and I'm not a fan of the traditional English desserts. We are having ice cream, but the traditional desserts are Christmas pudding, which is a very heavy, it's a kind of cake, but it's got lots of dried fruit in it, and that's often eaten with brandy butter and sometimes cream. And then there's Christmas cake, which is also a very rich, very heavy cake with lots of dried fruits in it, and Christmas cake is usually iced, and a lot of people make their own, but of course you can buy them as well. And then for something a bit smaller and something that isn't just eaten on Christmas Day, it's also eaten at other times, there are mince pies. So they don't have mince in them like mince meat, they are a sweet pie, like a short crust pastry with a filling inside, which has also usually got some kind of sultanas and raisins, and then it's got a top on it, so it's you don't see the filling until you bite into it. And sometimes they've got little patterns on top. So there isn't really the tradition of Christmas baking as there is in other countries. People tend to buy their Christmas desserts, which is a shame, but some people do make their own cookies and cut them out to look like Christmas trees or snowmen or things like that. And we also have at the table on Christmas Day Christmas crackers. So it's like a cardboard tube, and you hold an end and your neighbour next to you at the table holds an end, and you pull it and it makes a bang. It snaps in half, and the person who has the bigger end gets what's inside, and there's usually some kind of present and a paper hat which you have to wear, and a joke. And the jokes usually aren't very funny, but most of the time we laugh at the fact that they're just like not funny. And often there's a fact in there as well, so you learn something as well, like a piece of information printed on the slip of paper where the joke is. So Christmas crackers. Christmas cards, they are definitely still sold here. I've noticed a decline in the amount of Christmas cards being given out. Sometimes people send an email around and say they've made a charitable donation instead. Sometimes people send e-cards. Sometimes people don't send them at all. I've received a few cards this year. I don't send Christmas cards, but I make a point of trying to get in touch with people and call them or email them and stay in touch, but I haven't sent actual Christmas cards for a number of years, and I think a lot of people are doing that, whether it's to save the environment or because they don't have time. There are different reasons, but it's not as popular as it used to be, but people definitely do still send Christmas cards, particularly if they're not going to see the person. I think possibly it's less popular now to give them to people that you will see, but some people do still send Christmas cards to all their friends and relatives and people that they know. Santa and his sleigh, he often comes round, so someone dressed up as Santa on a sleigh, and there's a bit of a tradition where they go around the streets, so the children can wait outside. They publish the route that Santa's going to take so the parents know when he's coming, and that happens in quite a lot of cities, that they go round and there's a sleigh and there's a Santa, and sometimes Santa gives sweets to the children. Sometimes they're also collecting for charities, usually children's charities, but it doesn't have to be, charitable organisations, and people can give money to them. And yeah, the children get to see Santa, and there's usually music, Christmas music, as it drives around, the sleigh drives around the streets. We don't have a tradition of December the 6th here in England, so there's nothing, children don't put their boots out, but they do put their stockings out on Christmas Eve, so on the 24th. Sometimes children put their stockings, hang them out, and hope that Father Christmas will put something inside. And sometimes the stockings are filled with more expensive things now, but it used to be just small presents. So it's not your main Christmas present, but some sweets, or maybe a small book, or something, a toy, just some small things that would fit inside this big stocking, which looks like a big sock. And usually they're hung at the end of the children's bed or somewhere. And then in the morning, when the children see them, they're full of presents. If the children have been good, but I have never heard of a situation where the children have just found an empty stocking. Office Christmas parties are quite popular. Sometimes the company organises them. It depends which sector you're working in. If you're in the public sector, sometimes not. But then people organise their own party and have dinner somewhere. There's usually dancing, or everybody dresses up in their party clothes and goes out and has a celebration with their co-workers and colleagues and just has a good time. And sometimes there are more than one. So I remember attending several Christmas parties in the past when this department had one and then another department had one, but they invited other people, and so it can be quite a busy time in terms of going out. And if you're organising an office Christmas party, you have to be really organised, because if you start doing it in December, then most of the restaurants are full when it comes to big bookings, and certainly in London I've had that experience. Another tradition in the office is the Secret Santa. So everybody picks a name. It's a secret, so you don't tell the other people whose name you have. And there's usually an agreed amount of money that you can spend, so that everybody spends around the same amount, and you buy a present for that person. So whoever's name you get, you buy them a present, wrap it up, and then hand it back in, and then everybody gets a present. And so you don't know who you're going to get. Some people are really easy to buy for, some people aren't, but that's part of the fun. Sometimes people do say who they're from, but sometimes it's just a surprise, and you never find out who gave you your present. So it's just a nice way to make sure that that everybody gets something, I guess, and that it doesn't get really expensive by buying something for all of your colleagues. So it's just a nice thing, and usually the last day when most people are in at work, then the Secret Santa presents are giving out. There isn't really a tradition of Christmas markets here, although they are becoming more popular. So I think a lot of English people are going to Germany now for a long weekend I've noticed this year, various people have been posting that on Facebook, so it's becoming a tradition that English people do that, but also the markets are springing up here too. They're not quite the same, I would say, but it's the same kind of idea. So several local towns around where I live have Christmas markets, and there's a big one in London where you can go and drink mulled wine and buy Christmas gifts. And last year there was some real animals in the nativity scene. They had a donkey and a sheep and a goat and a horse, and they were teaching children about animals. But I've only seen that once, but I thought that was a nice idea. But yeah, the idea of Christmas markets is catching on more. So this podcast is being recorded slightly earlier in the week, but it's going out on the 24th, and I know for many people that is the main day for celebrating Christmas. So for anyone who's celebrating, I wish you a very happy Christmas. So I won't wish you a happy new year, because I'll be back again once more before the year is over. But I did just want to remind everybody that the English with Kirsty Christmas prize draw is still going, and it will be open until the 31st of December. But if you haven't already, then you can go to www.englishwithkirsty.com/podcast/episode 24, and there you can enter the prize draw and possibly win some English training for next year. So have a good week, enjoy your time off if you have time off, and I will speak to you again soon. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the English with Kirsty podcast. If you have any questions or comments, my email address is kirsty@englishwithkirsty.com, or you can go to www.englishwithkirsty.com/podcast, where you'll find information about the individual episodes.